Hi, my name's Alicia, and I'm a volunteer facilitator with the MAID Grief Recovery Program. I'm going to share my story with you about how I got here today and why I decided to become a peer group facilitator in the first place. So when Bill C-14 was first introduced into Parliament, it received a lot of media attention, and so it was no surprise that it really came up as a natural topic of discussion between my mother and I. And at the time, she shared that she thought that, euthanasia was a truly humane option. And so far, we could have only, up until that point, offered it to our pets. But that she was really happy to see that Canada was finally coming around to the idea and really embracing it. Little did I know that just a few short years later, she herself would be choosing a medically assisted death as her preferred exit. And when the time came where my mother found herself facing, a steep decline in health and serious deterioration in her quality of life, the decision for her, while not an easy one, was really an obvious one. And although the idea should not have come as a shock to me, considering, we had had these previous conversations, I knew where she stood on the subject. I absolutely was. I was not prepared to say goodbye to her, and I was not ready to face the next conversations we would need to have to make that happen. Knowing someone's day and time of death and having the clock remind you of just how much time you have left with them can feel at times like a curse. Something that I came to realize during this time, however, that did bring me some comfort and some strength was the realization that, my mother, she didn't decide to die, but rather she decided how she would die. And in this case, it would be avoiding her further pain, further suffering, and passing, the way that she wanted to go, at home, in her bed, surrounded by her friends and family. And this I could see was a really huge relief to her. This procedure was going to allow her to maintain a semi-normal routine almost right up until the moment of her receiving the medication. And it was this understanding that allowed me to see, what a gift MAID could be. Knowing the day and time of her passing allowed us to plan some final activities for her that we knew she would really enjoy, like a tea party with her grandkids. And it also gave her a chance to plan and share with us what her final wishes were. And most importantly, she got to write and say her final goodbyes to her friends and family. And it specifically gave me a chance to grieve and honor her passing with her and to really bravely search out some of those last conversations that we were going to need to have. And it allowed me to support her in her wish for a good death. But, losing her, my best friend and mother, all in one, and witnessing, the MAID procedure, it did complicate my grieving process. I noticed that, none of my friends or colleagues really knew how to talk about it, so they just pretty much avoided the topic altogether, and what felt like avoided me. And this left me feeling just totally isolated and alone and trying to process these really heavy and complicated feelings by myself. And I almost felt like I was inhabiting two worlds. There was this external one that kept going and was thriving, and then there was my internal life that was kind of causing an identity crisis. And it really took attending multiple grief groups, with 3 different organizations before I really found the people who could understand me and who were grief literate. And, they, not only did they, were willing to talk about the process and the grief, but they wanted to, and they wanted to hold space for one another. So I attended my first MAID grief recovery group back in the spring of 2020 with Mark Somerville. And it just made me realize how much I needed a group that could really understand the ins and outs, specifically of the MAID process. like I mentioned, like knowing the date and time that it would happen, and how surreal that was, and how surreal it was that someone came the day before to put these IV lines in. Just these tiny reminders. And it was around this time that I did decide that I also wanted to get into volunteering and help facilitate these peer support groups. It really, the MAID grief recovery really felt like a natural fit for me. And I just really wanted to give back to the community that had helped me get through what I think to be like the hardest time in my life. One thing I didn't expect, however, was just the realization was how much that I would also get out of facilitating the groups as I did when I was a client. Um, you know, it just wasn't, I wasn't expecting that. And I even feel like I maybe got even more out of it because I knew I had purpose, I had meaning. I was helping, other people on their grief journeys who were struggling. And this makes me think of two quotes that I've read that really have resonated with me in the past. So the first is by Carolyn Baker, and she's the author of Islands of Sanity. And she says that grieving has been banished from our culture, as it's considered to hold us back from progress. This is also known as grief shaming, but grief should be shared for the benefit of the person and the community. There is a healing power of people sharing their grief with each other. In fact, when we share our grief with someone else who is there to support us and to help us hold it, it is a healing gift to the griever and to the person supporting them. So I just really identify with that quote. Another one too, this is by a professor at the University of Toronto. His name is Dr. Mullen Leschuk. And he writes just about the positive dynamics that a group can have and that they can really draw the best out of people with regards to their humanity and their ability to be helpful and therapeutic to one another. And really that the value of belonging, the value of having the sense of community, and the value of being part of something bigger than just one person elevates us as a people. And I really identify with that, and that has been my experience time and time again. Each group that I've facilitated and, witnessed has been different, but they all come with their own value. You can see, as people grow throughout the 10-week program, you can see when the trust has really been established, and it's a beautiful thing to see everyone supporting one another. And yeah, I wouldn't trade that for the world. I think it's in a weird way, this process has been a gift. It's revealed something for me with people and how to really connect with someone on the deepest level. To talk about, one of the biggest mysteries of life. So yeah, thank you for watching my video and my introduction here, and I look forward to hopefully meeting some of you in the future and being in groups.